Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Cinder Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits. So get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Cara Austine-Rademaker, and Cara is the director of the Couture Pattern Museum in Santa Barbara. Welcome, Cara.
Thank you, Cinder. It's so wonderful to be here with you and the community today.
Yes. So I'm so glad that you're here because, well, frankly, I don't think I've ever heard of a couture pattern museum. And so I'm eager to hear all about what you do and how you started, all of that. So tell us.
Yes, the Couture Pattern Museum is the largest couture pattern archive in the world. And frankly, there's nothing like this in the world.
In the world?
In the world. So some people will ask, what are patterns or what are couture patterns? And these are, think of them as architectural blueprints, but instead of for a house, they're for your clothes. Everybody that's wearing an outfit right now, their outfit came from a pattern. And so our museum focuses on an entirely different concept. It's a very innovative concept on fashion conservation and preservation. Instead of being like most other museums that worry about the preservation of cloth or the preservation of the dress themselves, we took a step back and said, let's preserve the patterns and the instructions and the savoir-faire, the haute couture know-how on how to construct and how to craft these beautiful historic garments. And so our pattern archive goes all the way back to the 1920s with a specialization in the golden age of couture. So you think of Christian Dior and Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Cardin, all those really great names that shape society.
Gosh. So, all right. So how did you get interested in all of this?
Well, back in college, and then just like most people, you can't really afford high fashion or couture. And so I was absolutely shocked that designers were releasing sewing patterns for women or for people to sew their designs for, let's say, $3. And I asked, how did this happen? Is there a history here? How long has this been going on for? So I just went down the rabbit hole, as they say. And I called up libraries and museums, and none of them had archives of these designs. And so I said, maybe I need to start collecting them during my downtime. You know, my major is actually in finance and healthcare. And so I had no idea I would be in the fashion industry or working with these patterns in the future. But I just had this passion for them and this history. And as women were starting to pass, unfortunately, the next generation would just throw away their patterns. And so with some of the patterns in our collection, we are the only ones that hold maybe the last pattern on earth. One example would be like the coronation robe. A lot of people have never heard of the Queen and the Queen's dressmaker, Norman Hartnell, releasing a coronation robe for impoverished peeresses. And so through our collection, we're able to storytell and tell stories that have been lost or maybe other museums just don't know about. And so that's how come we put on the Coronation Couture exhibit last year. And that was a really wonderful community event where we exhibited and reconstructed the coronation robe and a coronation gown pattern that we have in our collection.
So this event, did you hold it at your facility and people came there, or did you go somewhere?
Well, we are kind of a startup. We started in 2022, and we started launching our exhibits at Work Zones at Paseo Nuevo Mall.
Okay.
And had no idea. It was during First Thursday, and my focus at the time was just on digitizing this archive, because a lot of these patterns are printed on very delicate tissue
Yeah,
paper, and some
right,
of them are over 100 years old. And so I was just focused on digitizing and conserving and preserving, but then, also being able to launch stories and tell stories and educate through exhibits. And so we just started at work zones, and we grew from there. When our very first exhibit, we asked, will anybody even come to this? Is anybody even interested, especially here locally in fashion? And surprisingly, people came. And so we launched another one, and more people came.
Wow.
So, yeah, so we've just grown from there. I think we put on 6 total exhibits
Since 2022.
Since 2022.
Gosh. Well, good for you. And so people came from all over.
They
But now,
did.
where are you located now?
We just moved to a new location. It is on 1525 State Street, across from the Episcopal Church, right next to Cantwell's. Everyone knows
Okay.
Cantwell.
Yes. So you're
So-
up there.
Yes, and
Upstairs?
it has the most beautiful vistas and views of the Arts District. They like to call us the Theater District, but you'll be able to come and visit the museum and go out on the deck and have ocean views and overlook the beautiful Arts District.
So I could just see you having little wine and cheese events and
Absolutely, and that's another thing that we get calls for. Some women call to bring their girlfriends so they can have a little birthday party, and I am going to start working with little groups and tourism groups to be able to have gatherings and let this be another location to gather and celebrate history and beauty and craftsmanship.
that is fabulous. Now, I just find it so interesting. Here you were at college taking something completely different, and all of a sudden, wow, you find yourself not just interested, but passionate about this.
It's funny how
seemed
that
like,
works.
Yeah, it seemed like you were just as surprised as anybody about that.
I still am surprised.
So where were you going to school at the time?
I went to college at a university in Iowa,
Oh,
and Los Angeles called and said, we want to hire you for a position. It was actually an actuarial position.
oh, okay.
And so that's how I moved out to this area.
Because that's what you were studying.
Yes.
And so you say you're digitizing the pattern. So when a person comes into your museum then, what do they see? What will they see?
You're going to see a rotating our rotating collection. So the museum's not big enough where we can have everything out.
Okay.
But we will be having an exhibition of maybe a story. Like this last year, we were celebrating James Gallinos's 100th birthday. And so we had a tribute to him. And so you would come and see the patterns. You'll see original photographs. You're going to see his dresses that he sewed in his atelier. So we have a combination of original dresses, but also reconstructed dresses made from the patterns that we make either at the museum, or we also have founding members that contribute their work from all over the world. And we're also starting relationships with some couture houses to help reconstruct some of these historical
that's
costumes.
exciting, huh? Gosh. So do you have trouble like preserving the fabric and stuff of these dresses?
Yes, a lot of museums do. You have to have them in a very specialized, temperature-controlled, dust-free environment, and that's kind of the issue that's happening. Is because these dresses and these fabrics are at risk of decaying, and they always will. They're becoming less and less accessible for education, and so unless you're a PhD researcher specializing in fashion or fashion conservation, you're likely not able to study these garments, historical garments, and it's only going to get worse over time. And that's where we come in, where what makes us so special is that you don't have to study the cloth itself. They're not the only ones keeping the craftsmanship and this know-how, that you can come to us, and we not only have the pattern, but we have the instructions on how to reconstruct this historical garment. And so we come from a different conservation angle that is innovative and exciting, and that's why I say there's nothing like this on Earth. And that's why we have members from all over the world, including Australia and Germany and people on the East Coast. So it's very exciting. Even though we are a micro museum and very specialized, we have a very large impact.
Boy, you sure do. You have created something very, very important. And so digitizing, do you mean, how do you do that? Do you mean that it comes on a computer, or tell me about that.
Yes, it's kind of like scanning.
Okay.
And scanning and putting them into a database
Oh.
that you save digitally.
So you scan the pattern itself.
And the instructions.
The instructions.
But each pattern, the tissue is so delicate.
Yeah.
And they have to be handled in a certain way. And a lot of people have issues digitizing them. So we have to use very expensive equipment to make sure that you don't not only damage the pattern, but that you upload the information accurately.
Is that equipment at your new location, or do you have it somewhere else, like maybe
We have
in your
a separate.
home?
No, it's not. We have a separate location for all of this, and it's undisclosed at the time because we don't want people.
Oh, right. Of course. Yeah. All right. So you have another location where you keep this kind of equipment and you do a lot of the work. And then you have the museum, which is a micro museum, where you actually display the things. Okay. Yes. That makes sense. Wow.
One day it would be really nice to expand and have the funding to have a much larger museum space where everything can be under one roof. And
yeah. Well, I have no doubt that you're going to get to that goal. That's a great goal to have, and people are going to hear about it, and they're going to want to join and help you fund it. Now, if somebody is watching or listening to this and they want to make a financial donation, they can go on your website, and there's a Donate Now button, and it'll be tax deductible.
Absolutely. And you can also sign up to be a member. We have a founding member program.
Okay.
For less than $300 a year. You're able to join the community and order some educational materials. You're able to join the forums. You're able to take the classes, and we're going to keep building up these digital classes on the couture know-how, on how to construct. And that's missing. A lot of universities these days aren't teaching and can't really teach how to make couture, how to make your garments so special, and in the historic way especially. A lot of kids, when I just go to school and they sketch, they put together collections, but very few actually know how to make the clothes that they're designing.
Yeah.
And so that's another educational aspect that we're focusing on, is keeping that knowledge alive.
And so you have sewing classes, don't you, online?
Yes.
Do you? Or?
Yes, we're building up the digital content, but you can, if you need help in person, some people learn better that way. You can sign up for a 4-week master class and come to our space, or we can meet you in your space too, and you'll have that guidance.
That's fabulous. Now, are you working with any schools or colleges or anything? Are they, maybe it's premature, I don't know.
We're starting discussions with different museums, different universities, but actually a lot of students have signed up to use us as a resource to supplement their education. And so we actually have some students from all over America who are part of the community right now.
That's amazing. So I'm still amazed at this, the largest couture pattern museum in the world.
Yes. There are other pattern archives, such as the University of Rhode Island has a very large pattern archive, and the LACMA down in LA has a large pattern archive. But their collections are so broad and general that they've lost the story of couture, and so they don't have the patterns that we have. Ours is very, very specialized, and with these couture patterns, you're able to launch different stories and the histories of why women wore what they wore, and also the special relationship that these designers had with home seamstresses. Millions of women sewed, and so this was part of this feminine history that gets lost as fast fashion and the manufacturing process becomes less humanized, and unfortunately, this information is getting lost. And I mean, who's left today that's holding on to this specialized knowledge of how to make your garments? And you have a couple of conglomerates in Paris, maybe some museums, maybe some fashion schools, but more and more this information is getting lost. And I'm hoping that this museum will help preserve not only the patterns, but also the know-how.
Gosh. So if someone said to you, so Cara, what does that word couture mean anyway? Because that seems to be the one factor that makes it all so different from other patterns, or, so
Yes.
so tell me about that word and how.
Well, that word maybe, so the young people say it sounds so bougie, but it really just means sewing in French. Or sometimes you'll see couture on a pattern and it just means the seam line. And so there's nothing really, really fancy about it. But the Chambre in Paris, they want to preserve the word or the term haute couture. Okay. And so you have to have a special, you have to basically go through a special checklist to be able to be considered haute couture, and that's the highest art form of fashion, to be part of that club. And so those are the designers that we focus on, are the people who have actually had the haute couture status. But we have branched out, like we have old Hollywood costumes. We'll have an Audrey Hepburn or Elizabeth Taylor, or we have some of those costumes as well. But mostly the bulk of our collection are people and brands that have had that specialized designation of haute couture.
I get it now. Finally, I get it. Okay. Well, that makes perfect sense. So, Cara, we have just another minute or so left. What else would you like our audience, our listeners to know?
We have some really exciting events and exhibits coming up.
Oh, good.
Our more recent event that's coming up is the Balenciaga book signing with Maria Kublin. She's flying all the way from the Netherlands. This will be her very first North American tour, her book signing, right here in Santa Barbara. So I hope you can go on the website and sign up for a VIP ticket. You'll get a signed book, and your dinner will be included, and wine. It's just going to be a very beautiful, elegant evening. And then after that, we've just signed the contracts to be able to exhibit never-seen-before Audrey Hepburn photographs from the Hamilton Millard estate with Megan Freelander and her son, actually. Audrey Hepburn's son and Megan wrote a book. And so it's in conjunction with their book launch. And then after that, a very, very special exhibit and book signing with Marilyn Vance. And she's the costume designer for Pretty Woman. Oh, gosh. And we're going to be exhibiting that backup polka dot dress. That's the famous polka dot during the polo game. So there's just so many exciting events and exhibits that are coming up on our horizon. So I hope you stay tuned. I hope you go to our website and sign up to subscribe for our newsletter.
Yes, I will definitely get on your website and check out those events and get them on my calendar. Yeah. Oh, wow. You are doing such great work. So fascinating to hear your story, and I really appreciate you sharing with us about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here today.
Yes. And thank you for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.